Hey, Brian King here. I'm video recording simultaneously on Instagram and Facebook for the first time. So this may be a little awkward as I'm kind of moving my attention back and forth. The thing that I wanted to talk about the most today is, hang on, Instagram isn't really cooperating. Let me try something else. Give me a moment, I'll get there. But I'll keep talking to you while you're here. Let me know that you are here. Jennifer, so wonderful to see you. It's been an eternity. Okay, I'll try and monkey with this while I'm talking. The Instagram folks missed some of it. Oh well, it's my fault for not acquainting myself sufficiently with this before I got on board. Wow, this stuff is complicated. Anyway, hey there, Mike. What I was wanting to talk about is this thread in one of the autism groups that I belong to. And what the question was, and there are always so many interesting questions in any autism group you find on Facebook. And it gives me a lot of material to address for you guys, because even with everything we know about autism, and ADHD for that matter, so much gets missed. And this is one thing in particular. The question that I'm referring to is from a mother that was asking, hey, do you ever notice that in many ways your kid is more neurotypical? That's the word for your average child, a child without a diagnosis. You know, that elusive normal that everybody wants to aspire to, but really doesn't exist. And the question is, hey, do you ever notice your kid is a little bit more neurotypical than those other, quote, autistics? First and foremost, comparison is something people do. We compare ourselves to each other. Hey, am I as fat as that person? Hey, do I look as good in this outfit as so-and-so, the movie star? And there's always that tendency to look for those who are further ahead, or, unfortunately, those who may be further behind, so you can criticize and judge, if that's how you roll. But when it comes to special needs, whether parents mean to do it or not, when you are comparing your child to other kids on the spectrum, you're doing both a tremendous disrespect, because you're looking at kids that are more challenged by the diagnosis, and you're kind of thinking of them as less than. Because some of the conversations that happen in your head is, well, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that kind of behavior. Or I'm glad I don't have to deal with that issue, kind of a better them than me. And if you're thinking that your child is less autistic or, more neurotypical, you're looking at your child through the lens of categories. This is normal, this is not, this is autistic, that isn't, this is more high functioning, pardon the air quotes. That was something that came up a lot in the past, and probably still does. I've worked with parents who use that as a very passionate qualifier. They'll talk to me about their child and say, well, my child has this issue and that issue. Oh, but he's very high functioning. I just want to make that clear. I'm like, whoa, hold on. What are you trying to make sure I know here? Or are you trying to make sure that I don't mistakenly think that your child is one of those kids, those autistics? Or is that part for you? Is it part, emphasizing the high function part can do one of two things for people. It can give you hope that your child possibly can get closer to normal than those other kids, or maybe it's in an effort to protect your child from becoming stigmatized to the degree that those kids are. But all of that categorization crap aside, one of the reasons why it is difficult to diagnose autism in the first place is because regardless of how those wonderful overeducated psychiatrists who write the DSM piece of crap every 10 years try to do to create this all-encompassing umbrella cookie cutter way of looking at our kiddos, not a one of them fits cozily into that category. There's nuance, there's individual difference. They tried to correct it in the DSM-5 by making this continuum, and all they really did was make it even harder to diagnose. It's a big pile of crap. In fact, when I run out of toilet paper, I keep a copy handy. But regardless of the label, regardless of how your child might compare to you when you were a child or other kids, you're raising an individual. You're raising an individual with strengths and challenges. Your ultimate goal at the end of the day is to help your child find what they're good at, what they love doing, try and nurture it, grow it, and think of a way to monetize it. Because we do our best to educate the employers of the world, those that are trying to replace everybody with robots and AI and all that crap. We try and convince them to allow the special needs community to join the job market. And some of them are doing an awesome job. Best Buy's doing some, Walgreens is the king, CVS is now rolling out something. But let's not kid ourselves in thinking that that's going to be forever, or that it's going to earn our kids a living wage. It might. It could lead to something grand, but we can't put all of our hopes on somebody else doing us a favor. It's my opinion that there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurial adventures or ventures with our kiddos. If you don't believe me, look them up online. An entire coffee shop run by people with special needs. There's a program, I think, in Ireland that is training people with Down syndrome how to work in hair salons. They're doing things like, washing the hair and running the counter and that kind of stuff. And that's a wonderful beginning pathway to future education. And that stuff's being done by small business entrepreneurs. It's not being done by huge corporations. If you say your kid is too shy to be an entrepreneur, BS. Hook them up with an introvert who knows marketing and business so that you can leverage that person's ability to bring in the clients, pair it up with your child's ability to crank out some really impactful high-end result, and bam, you've got an income for your child. It's more work. It certainly is. Right now, with all of my conditions, I would be a nightmare as an employee because I'm too high maintenance. But I can sure kick ass as an entrepreneur. That's what I do, serving people every day. So, but back to the core issue here, which is you've got to see the individual you are raising. Is whatever the diagnosis tells you, what you're going to find when you really get to know your child is that there is more Sally or more Michael than there is autism or ADHD. Yes, those symptoms can be noisy a lot of the time. Trust me, my wife knows this about me. Sometimes I can be an outright pain in the ass, and I'm surprised I haven't woken up in the middle of the night with a pillow over my face sometimes. And I'm very grateful for that. And having raised 3 boys, still raising 3 boys with Asperger's and ADHD, there are moments when the personality shows through, and there are moments when 1 or 2 of the symptoms of their diagnoses rear up and really test your nerves, but then those pass and you see the person again. But the important thing is to notice the person more often than you notice the diagnosis. Because who they are, their ultimate contribution is going to come from their gifts, not their gaps, okay? Focus on their gifts, because we are living in an ever-evolving society that values specialization, not generalization. If your kid sucks at math, let it go. If your kid can't write a paragraph, let it go. Maybe college and writing and blogging is not the path for your child. Maybe building computers. Maybe doing some wicked coding that has to do more with ones and zeros and A, B's, and C's. Great. Let your kid focus on that stuff. Forget the traditional 50s academia that no longer applies to our society. I've thrown a lot of stuff out there, a lot to think about. But the bottom line is, love your child, the individual your child is. Catch yourself when you're comparing your child with those kids. And forgive yourself for being disrespectful to both and forgetting that you're raising a child, not a diagnosis. So that's just been my 2 cents on this. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you on Instagram as well, I hope this came through all right. If so, I'll do it again. This has been Brian. We'll talk again soon.